What a day. Boom! Hello and welcome everybody to the Crypto Mining Show, your one-stop shop for all cryptocurrency news from the perspective of a cryptocurrency miner. I go by Blind Run on the internet and Matthew in real life. And today we're going to be talking about Michael Saylor, basically alluding to the fact that he thinks that Ethereum could be the next Luna. Is that true? Is there any validity to that? Is that even exactly what he said, or is it just a sensationalized news article for clicks and for obvious clicks on the YouTube video as well? So we'll find out. But I would like to remind you guys that currently the channel is definitely struggling with some suppression, obviously because of tags and all that. If you find the channel entertaining or any of the news or information beneficial and think that one of your friends might like it, please share it around, because without you guys, I got nothing. So hopefully that we can get the channel to begin to recover, but obviously it's not looking too good. It looks like the interest has died along with the interest in cryptocurrency, which tells me I'm getting pretty close to obviously dumping in as much as I can into accumulation while everybody disappears. And then everybody once again in the next bull run will be like, how did you do that? And I'll be like, the same way we did it every other cycle. Pay attention. Let's go ahead, and hopefully some of you guys are paying attention. Let's get into the first article right after a word from today's sponsor. Today's spot isn't really a sponsor. That is the wrong sponsor. It's more of just an opportunity for you all if you have interest in ASIC miner repair. ASIC miner repair is currently in high demand, and right now there are certification training.
Established in 2017, Octominer is an international mining hardware company. They manufacture and engineer the best mining equipment in the industry and supply rigs to some of the largest mining farms around the world. Their GPU mining rigs also integrate with the top crypto operating systems like Hive OS, MinerStat, and Simple Mining. All parts come with an international 1-year warranty. Exciting news! They will be adding ASIC miners for sale to their website soon and launching a new product built specifically for ASIC home miners. Please visit octominer.com or email support@octominer.com for questions.
Gosh, we got the audio. It's fine. Look, it is what it is. I apologize. We got the audio. Let me just say, this is what happens when you are not as seasoned as I used to be when we would go ahead and stream every day. So unfortunately, apologies for that. Hopefully y'all can understand and we'll get to moving on. So, Bitcoin maximalist Michael Saylor says that Ethereum could collapse like Luna. Let's go ahead and see why he thinks that. Now, to be clear, it says collapse like Luna, not collapse in the exact manner for the exact reason. And so let's go ahead and see why the comparison is being made. Ethereum has come under fire from Bitcoin maximalist and former CEO of MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor, who has compared the network to Luna, which tragically collapsed in May of 2022. The effects of the collapse continue to haunt the broader crypto market, playing a role in the collapse of many notable crypto firms. Now Saylor has pointed fingers at proof-of-stake networks like Ethereum as carrying a possibility of crashing like the infamous Terra. So what is really going on here? Because it's important to actually make this distinction as far as I can tell. And we'll see with exact quotes from Mr. Saylor here, but it sounds like he's pointing at proof of stake in general, not just Ethereum. And I do agree with him to a certain extent that proof of stake poses this particular risk in similar situations to Terra Luna compared to something that is proof of work. And so from that kind of, if we're taking a very high level view of cryptocurrency and looking at proof of work versus proof of stake and the capability of proof of stake basically collapsing versus proof of work collapsing, like something like Luna, I would tend to agree. Now, obviously, there's more technical things that go on in the background, and there is a lot going on with something like Cardano that sets it apart from other proof of stake coins. And there, of course, are the hybrid models that include both proof of stake and proof of work that would kind of set themselves apart potentially as well. And not everything is going to be like apples to apples, right? We have apples to oranges, etc. But, as Bitcoin is a nice juicy steak, I would say most of the proof of stake coins are apples and oranges. Maybe some cherries, maybe some avocado or just plain old onions. I don't know. There you go. Let's go ahead and see, though, some more details on this. It says, in a Twitter post, the MicroStrategy ex-CEO highlighted that Ethereum is at risk of seeing a Luna level event. The argument was basically a comparison of Bitcoin to other cryptocurrencies such as Ethereum, which Saylor believes are unstable. The tweet included a link to a YouTube video by Trader University that elaborated on the Ethereum blockchain and why there could be a problem with the proof of stake network. It highlights the fact that the Ethereum network depends on staked ETH to run, which at this point sees a lot of staked coins because there is no way to withdraw them. However, Matthew R. Crater, not really sure on the exact pronunciation of that, but it's Kratter, highlights that once the code to withdraw is available, and if the cryptocurrency prices falls further, then more users will be inclined to unstake their coins. And this is something we've been talking about on this channel for a very, very long time. Is it exactly like Terra Luna? No, because you have a completely different setup as far as the staking platform goes. But you don't have as centralized entities, right, participating with it. But where the centralization lies does matter. While it does matter, I should say, it still ends up at potentially the end goal, which is essentially once you have that unstaking happen, you tank the price of Ethereum as people start to basically liquidate all of their staked Ethereum. Now, the idea is that staking would be released in certain phases, right? Like maybe based on age of wallet, for example, where you would essentially have them release it little by little, or by some other method, maybe numbers or something along those lines. And then you would have basically a slow release of the Ethereum coming unstaked. That being said, I'm not really sure that is what's going to end up happening, because remember, what we had was the SEC kind of threaten this classification of Ethereum as a security and not a commodity. This brung up obviously some questions surrounding Ethereum, and then really where that basis came from, as stated by the SEC, was essentially going to be that it was due to the inability to unstake. So you were, by nature of purchasing Ethereum and staking it, investing in something that basically required the work of others. Why is that? Because you aren't able to unstake without the work of the devs being done. So the basis turned it into essentially a security, which by definition, that would make sense. So what happened after that, of course, like we talked about last week, is we ended up having this announcement of kind of the Shanghai upgrade happening, along with unstaking being released in June of 2023, which really accelerated that timeline, I think, to a certain extent. Even if it gets delayed from then, at least at this point, we have sort of a feeling out, a voting process, a next step, let's say, for Ethereum moving out of being locked, right? And that is essential in, I think, the case filings that will happen coming with the regulation of cryptocurrency coming down hard here after, of course, the FTX ordeal and, of course, the Terra Luna deal and whatever else is coming down the pipeline as far as negative news surrounding cryptocurrency. That regulation is going to be hitting hard. It does mean that if Ethereum wants to avoid this classification as a security, they are going to need to get staking, unstaking available. And that's kind of where I see it at right now. That does end up, of course, as pointed out here, end up translating into potential for a collapse in the price of Ethereum as it becomes unstaked. But, at the same time, we were kind of expecting a decoupling between the basically staked Ethereum, or STETH, which is a token representation of Ethereum that is staked, and Ethereum itself as the actual token. And that didn't really happen. It kind of happened here and there, but it didn't to a full extent, right? So is that, a reasonable expectation? Yes. Will it happen? That's yet to be seen. I can't make a prediction on that. There's a lot that goes on with Ethereum from, institutional investment wise that makes me think that there's too much money in it for it to actually fully on fail or go to zero. But then you look at something like FTX with $8.9 billion in liabilities somehow. But before that, an evaluation of $8 billion. And who actually knows, right? That's kind of the thing is like, yes, FTX is by nature a centralized entity. It's not like Ethereum. Ethereum has a much better chance than FTX. But I'm just saying at the end of the day, it's hard for me to actually make a full-on prediction of whether or not, this is going to happen. I still think from a principled standpoint, proof of stake was a mistake for Ethereum. I think that not allowing people to unstake their Ethereum on the launch of proof of stake, Ethereum 2.0, was, a tricky manipulation of the price of Ethereum. However, that's been going on for forever with Ethereum, right? Like if we look at Ethereum, we know that EIP 1559 was an intentional burn to, falsely prop up the price of Ethereum and pull some out of circulation. We know that the inability to unstake is once again another way to falsely prop up the price of Ethereum and basically go into deflation. We know that this is basically price manipulation of Ethereum with pretty much all of the policies that have been implemented over the past couple of years on Ethereum. And to say otherwise, I think would be completely ignorant at this point as we look at it and really pay attention to what's happening. So what I mean to say by that is like going to zero, no, but market manipulation, yes. And in what direction, it's hard to tell because I do think that what we ended up with now is like in a spot where Ethereum was supposed to go up much higher than it actually did from, of course, the merge, and the expectations were much higher. And with unstaking coming in 2023, you do present an issue, especially with, of course, the global macroeconomic pressures, right, on just people in general, especially these stakers, even if they are larger institutional investors, puts a lot of selling pressure on Ethereum once it unlocks and could drive, of course, that price down further. However, like I said, with that institutional investment, etc., you could see it go up, whatever. I'm just like every other dumb YouTuber that really can't tell you either way. These are just my thoughts, right, as we get through it. I'd like to hear your thoughts and opinions, of course, in the live chat and, of course, the comments down below in post. At the end of the video, Crowder then calls for regulators to look into proof-of-stake networks such as Cardano and Ethereum to determine if they are at risk of catastrophic implosions. This is in an effort to prevent another event like the Luna collapse. Saylor then compares the network to Bitcoin in his tweet, saying Bitcoin is engineered to be stable, robust, and increasingly secure and efficient over time based on proof-of-work and ASIC technology advances. In contrast, proof-of-stake protocols are inherently unstable, inefficient, opaque, and risky due to their fragile design, he added. And I think that obviously there are more robust and frankly more stable proof of stake networks than other proof of stake networks. So to paint a broad brush over it is, I think, a little unfair, especially if you look at something like I said, like Cardano, where you are able to easily stake and unstake, and everything on the protocol pretty much handles that. Of course, it's yet to be seen on Cardano with the amount of use that something like Ethereum has, to be fair. But I do agree in general that proof of work is a safer way to do that. And safe and slow, like my brisket, is what I prefer personally. Michael Saylor has always been a vocal Bitcoin maximalist, preferring the pioneer cryptocurrency over all others in the space despite their performance. This is not the first time that Saylor has dissed Ethereum, but his most recent attempt has drawn the wrath of ETH supporters. One user points out MicroStrategy's Bitcoin investments, which were made under his leadership. At current prices, the company is experiencing unrealized losses on its Bitcoin holdings, whereby a similar investment in ETH would have resulted in a profit for the company, as well as passive income for the coins that were staked. And I think you would actually have to, I'd have to like analyze this a little bit more. You guys let me know if you did have a chance to look at this. But essentially they posted a chart. What if MicroStrategy had bought ETH in debt instead? And it does show, I guess, pretty much breaking even, it looks like here, a little bit above, and then Bitcoin down below. That being said, that story could change drastically in June if unstaking happens, right? So, tomato, tomato, right? You don't really know until the fat lady sings. And in crypto, the fat lady is far from singing at this point. Nevertheless, Saylor remains a staunch supporter of Bitcoin, and his Twitter page is evidence of this. One of his most recent tweets includes a picture of Bitcoin light bulb with the caption, "Bitcoin is eternal light." All right, so that is the wrap up and all my thoughts surrounding it. Is Ethereum Terra Luna? No, I don't think so, because you definitely don't have that stablecoin interaction too. You don't have your own stablecoin that you're backing with your own coin. It would be completely ridiculous to say that Ethereum is like Luna in any form or fashion, in my humble opinion. However, could Luna could Ethereum crash to zero? Technically, yes, but anything could. Bitcoin could as well. Is it more likely that Ethereum goes down further or experiences more losses than, say, something like Bitcoin? And the answer to that would be, let's see what happens when everybody is allowed to unstake and stake at will. And then I think we get a better idea of the future of Ethereum and how robust it can be and how secure it can be, right? Because the fact of the matter is, staking, or the amount staked, directly relates to the amount of security on the network. And then if you have a bunch of people unstake, you compromise the security of the network. And right now we really don't have a good idea on what that number will actually be. Now, that's not all that's going on, of course, in the cryptocurrency world, and we have lots to talk about today. In the spokesman review, which actually I had to go find this and dig a little bit deeper to find this actually, an accountant that vetted Binance's reserves halts all crypto work. Now, what was happening here, first, to give you some background, the research that I did before we decided to pick this article, is that there's been claims in FUD surrounding Binance, and that Binance may be in trouble, and that their audits and their reserves are going poorly. Now, the audit news today was, wow, wait, Binance's audit got paused or put on hold. However, that's not the complete story. The accountant that vetted it paused all work on crypto. So there's probably something deeper going on here. But of course, once again, for the clicks, and so that you guys click, and so that people click the articles and everything happens, of course, the main news is going to focus on, oh, Binance in trouble. Don't worry about it. Let's go ahead and see exactly what's happening, right? So the first thing that I want to point out is the spokesman review also has a tab here purely for marijuana, and it is in Spokane, Washington. And that is a little bit funny because obviously we were talking about clickbait right before this. But The Mazars Group, the accounting firm used by Giant Binance Holdings Limited and other big players in the industry to vouch for their assets held in reserve, has halted all work for crypto clients, dealing a blow to an industry seeking to shore up confidence in the wake of the FTX collapse. The French firm suspended work for cryptocurrency firms because of indications that markets haven't been reassured by the proof of reserves reports it had published so far, according to an email from the firm seen by Bloomberg News. So essentially, what the firm themselves are saying that the markets aren't reassured by their work anyways. Interestingly, like, you wouldn't expect the company that's hired to actually do the work quit the work based on the reception of the work. I'm not sure that this is the whole story, right? Like, if you're being paid to do a job and you believe you're doing your due diligence and the best you can do at that job, the public discourse surrounding your results shouldn't sway you one way or the other if you are absolutely positive in your work, at least in my opinion. The firm was also concerned about intense media scrutiny, the email said. So what it's almost like they are fearful of being canceled, which is kind of odd, right? Mazars has indicated that they will temporarily pause their work with all of their crypto clients globally, a spokesperson for Binance said in a statement to Bloomberg News Friday. Unfortunately, this means that we will not be able to work with Mazars for the moment. A Mazars spokesperson said the firm will issue a statement in due course, declining to comment further. The decision is a setback for an industry that's been trying to bolster its credibility with investors following the collapse of crypto exchange FTX, which has been accused of misusing customer funds. Auditors have faced similar backlash in recent weeks, given that FTX itself had engaged such services prior to its collapse that seemingly missed any warning signs. Cryptocurrencies fell after the report, with Bitcoin down as much as 2.7% in early Europe trading. BNB, the native token of Binance Smart Contract chain, fell as much as 4.5%. Paris-based Mazars has been at the forefront of the cryptocurrency industry's rush to conduct proof of reserve reports for the likes of Binance and other large exchanges, including Crypto.com and KuCoin. Now, if you recall, Crypto.com did get their proof of reserves out, but how valid is the proof of reserves? If you are in a situation, once again, where you are performing your due diligence and you are confident in your report and you are actually reporting as a third party to the best of your knowledge, to the best of your capabilities, in all honesty, and you are principled and you have good ethics, I do not see a reason why you would stop. So that does mean that not necessarily calling Crypto.com into question here, but definitely calling the results of the proof of reserves into question, right? What I see here is a lack of confidence in the work that they have done, and that is a red flag in my humble opinion. So I wouldn't trust any of the proof of reserves for Crypto.com or KuCoin at this particular moment, right? That's kind of how I read this. I'd like to hear what you guys think in the live chat and the comment section below. Proof of reserves reports have faced scrutiny as they are not comparable to a full audit in that they show a firm's assets, not its liabilities, and instead serve as snapshots in time that say information provided by clients broadly checks out. And that's a fair assessment because, as we saw with the liabilities in FTX, there were $8.9 billion in liabilities at FTX. And then they were claiming $8 billion in assets, which means even if you were looking at the proof of reserves and they all matched up, FTX was still in trouble. But you compound that with the fact that a majority of it was backed by a token that had no backing in and of itself, and you end up in the position that FTX is in. So what does this mean? Well, it means that even if you have a position like Crypto.com or one of these others that can prove that they have the assets within custody, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are free from all liabilities. And that is kind of where this is all called into question, right? These disclosures have failed to calm investors, with many opting to pull their tokens off exchanges in fear of further implosions. Over the past 2 weeks, a net $554 million in stablecoins and more than $2 billion in Bitcoin and Ether have been withdrawn from centralized exchanges, according to data from CryptoQuant. Though this is largely stabilized compared to the mass withdrawals seen when FTX collapsed early in November. Another note about this is that this is par for the course, and I want to everybody that if this is your first cycle, sit back, relax, and enjoy, and be prepared to just learn and understand how all of this stuff plays out. This is not dissimilar from any other cycle. In fact, it is exactly what happened last time and the time before, right? What you see is essentially you start to find where the bad actors are, where the poor business planning was, and you start to figure out what all of that was. It all starts to fail, and basically all of the retail investors start to realize that they better self-custody. And a whole new generation of crypto users learn to self-custody. In fact, you would almost say that these particular events are required for cryptocurrency to move in the proper direction. What do I mean by that, right? Well, we have two directions that we're heading into. We are either heading into full centralized custody by federal governments, basically by nation states with CBDCs, where they monitor and protect the assets and tell you how much asset you can have and put an expiration date on it, like we saw in China, which we're going to be talking in the after party about. Lots of crazy stuff. Or you get into full self-custody and you have financial sovereignty and the individual self-custodies. Does it take more responsibility? Is it more difficult? Yes. But with great power comes great responsibility, right? This is the actual basis of the fundamentals of cryptocurrency that is being learned by the new generation of cryptocurrency, of cryptocurrency users. So what I see now is basically a fast generational cycle of about 4 years, right? Where we go through the same pattern every single time. All the FUD happens. All the people that are going to stick around in cryptocurrency are going to learn the hard way about self-custody. Does that mean that you have no interaction with any centralized platform ever? Of course not. At this point, we are in the position of a hybrid setup. I get the idea of hybrid from basically my experience as a cloud solutions architect, and where that basically comes from is the idea that you have a hybrid server where you essentially have Exchange still on-prem and then you have Exchange in the cloud and they communicate, and it's called hybrid. You basically are moving from an old technology to a new technology. You can't fully move over to the new technology, so you have to have an interim hybrid setup to basically compensate for that. The hybrid connection tool here is a centralized exchange, and it connects the old world to the new world. And it will be necessary in this move and in this transition to a digital currency, especially if we want that actual move to go in the proper direction, which in my humble opinion would be the kind of self-custody portion here. Now, there are, of course, attacks already coming down the line. We have basically the idea that they would block in the United States all self-custodial wallets, right? You would not be able to deposit to a centralized exchange from a self-custodial wallet. That is on the table right now. We have the sanctioning of Tornado Cash, removing the privacy options from cryptocurrency. You're already not allowed to utilize any direct exchange between any privacy crypto and the fiat US dollar, right? Or the US dollar in general. You can't go straight from Monero to that. All of these things are starting to break apart. What ends up happening, right, is that they will end up kind of breaking apart completely, and we'll have to see where things go. A lot of people think that we are headed into central bank digital currencies. And while I do see that, and I can definitely sit down and look at it realistically and say, okay, well, maybe you're correct. Bitcoin was a cool experiment. It failed and everything is going in the path of central bank digital currencies. There is still the variable of banks. Now, of course, cryptocurrency fundamentally says that we would basically remove the interference of any third party, including banks. But banks play a very significant role in the battle that is about to ensue over, of course, basically control of money. And that is because if the federal government in the US, or if any nation states across the globe decide to start moving into the direction of central bank digital currencies and directly interacting with their citizens and removing the banking system will fight back. So we end up in a very interesting position where moving forward, the banks are kind of going to be the front line defense against a central bank digital currency. And this is where the argument for probably something like XRP does make sense from the aspect of if we are talking about setting precedents in the court of law. So I think that this is kind of how I lay it all out, that I've been talking about it and playing with it philosophically. I'd like to hear your thoughts, poke holes in it. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, as well as in the live chat. I find it absolutely fascinating. And once again, I got to say, I do feel very blessed to actually be alive during this basically financial digital transformation, because nobody else is going to, there's very few people that get to live through this and see it and actually understand to a certain extent where we're sort of headed, right? And it's cool to see a fork in the road and know that as humanity, we are going to get to choose that fork in the road to a certain extent. Yes, you might feel powerless, but you really aren't. You can influence the direction we take by educating people, by talking to people about what's happening. And this isn't, I get it, cryptocurrency across the board, especially over this previous bull run, has been primarily about making money, right? Everybody got into cryptocurrency initially, for the most part, right, to make money. Nobody really, other than, Satoshi himself and some of the original founders, got into it purely out of some, altruistic motive, right? No, it started out to make money. But hopefully what you start to see as you've been in it is you care a lot. For me personally, I care a lot less about number go up and a lot more about what it's enabling people to do. Stories like, the stable coin, the ability to purchase stable coins for protection against inflation in Argentina, the ability to purchase Digibyte in Venezuela to protect against inflation. These types of stories are the stories that I lean on, especially when we start to get into this sort of situation of a bear market, right? Because we don't have that number go up excitement, but there is still that use, and there is still that hope that's there, right? And I want to make sure that everybody's aware that that's still there. The cryptocurrency sector has long been plagued with a lack of establishing auditing standards, the consequences of which were laid bare in the recent unraveling of FTX. The exchange's co-founder and former CEO, SBF, was arrested this week in the Bahamas and faces civil and criminal charges in the U.S. for wire fraud, among other allegations. Now, this is something you do want to take a look into. There's apparently a possibility, and I'm going to be working on this story here soon. But my understanding is there is a possibility that large transactions that were going through FTX could, target other individuals that were participating within FTX. I'm not sure how much validity there is to that. Maybe you guys can help point me in the right direction for the articles surrounding that, right? But let's go ahead and continue. John J. Ray, FTX's new CEO, told U.S. lawmakers on Tuesday that the defunct exchange had used accounting software QuickBooks to try to keep track of its finances, a system he said was wholly unsuitable for a company of its size. FTX had previously engaged auditing services by Armanino LLP and Prager Metis CPAs LLC. Ray said that FTX had yet to go through Armanino's recent audit of the firm's books. Quote, we do have to look through the books and records and look at the audits themselves and see how comprehensive they were to see if the audit would have picked up anything else anything that we see, Ray said. Certainly, we're going to look at the related parties' disclosures that were in those audits, whether there's any footnotes or exceptions. Now, I'm going to jump through most of this because they're going into FTX news. I think you guys are all caught up to date on FTX news. The real question that we had here, of course, was, is there any validity to Binance being in trouble because of the auditors deciding to no longer participate in the audit? And the answer to that, in short, is no, because we didn't actually get any information on it. However, it does mean that it pulls into question of whether or not the auditing, or basically the proof of reserves numbers for KuCoin and Crypto.com, are valid or not. And I think bringing those into question is more news and a better news headline, that it serves the public better than whether or not Binance is in trouble right now, right? It basically says, hey, you need to be asking more questions of these centralized exchanges and get, basically more information from them as to what their liabilities are compared to their assets, right? That's really what it's about. And so you can't just take a headline like this and run with it and say, Binance is insolvent or whatever. You can't do that, right? Now, probably as fast as the news is moving, by the time we end this, you never know, Binance could go insolvent before I even post this video all the way. It's just the nature of the beast right now in cryptocurrency news. But does it inherently mean anything's wrong with Binance? No, but it does call into question their previous work. That's pretty much how I end that. Now, this one hits home because, guys, we are social media influencer, or classified as that, or a content creator. Now, of course, my channel has primarily in the past focused on how-tos and guides, but it moved into news, right? We did have Crypto.com as a sponsor for the channel. Now, luckily, the way we handled that Crypto.com sponsorship was to say that we only utilize their card for, of course, cashing out our crypto. So we never suggested to purchase anything. We definitely never said to purchase any crow or anything like that. So from that perspective, I think I handled that quite well. Now, why do you see here? I wanted to talk to you guys about this because this is interesting. There was some sentiment surrounding my channel, I think sometime last year, where I had a lot of people reaching out. I had sponsors reaching out, a lot of people that were getting mad at me for turning down sponsorships. I had people curse me out and be like, why the fuck wouldn't you take the bag? That sort of thing. Take the bag while you can, take the bag while you can. And I'd say, no, I don't feel comfortable with it. I won't take coin sponsorships. I won't take, these types of things. And people always kind of wondered why, right? Especially when you would see a $10,000 coin offer, right? Review this coin, do one video, get $10,000. The reason why is not because I'm perfect and not swayed by money. It's just because I have a little bit more experience than everybody else in the sector. Why? Because I've been through this before. I've seen it all before. I knew that I didn't want to end up behind bars, bro. I don't want to end up in a position like BitBoy Crypto where I have to worry about it. I don't want to end up even in a position that Voscoin is in where he has to worry about some of this stuff. Because the fact of the matter is that in this industry, you can be guilty by association. And if you are large enough as a platform, like if we had grown to the size of BitBoy or something, and we had not adhered to our principles and the fundamentals of crypto and kept a clean slate, we would be in the position of these current content creators, right? Now, these ones are specifically on Twitter. They haven't started going after YouTubers yet necessarily. I mean, some of these guys maybe do have this. And I do want to say that I don't necessarily think that these are all allegations. So there's not necessarily that anybody here actually did anything wrong. I also am not a supporter of the letter organizations in the US, meaning SEC, FBI, FTC, blah, 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 CFTC, right? Like, I'm not a fan of those in general. I just am not. I think, right, I lean more libertarian here. I'm going to say it comes down to personal responsibility. And yeah, I don't think it's cool to take advantage of people, but one of the, I believe the line was something like, only like a coward appeals to law, right? Meaning like, I think like, well, it's basically either only idiots or cowards appeal to law. And the idea behind that is like, there's a certain point where you need to be smart enough not to fall for these things, right? And you need to take some personal responsibility. And if you did come to find out that somebody did take advantage of you, you know, you need to call that person out, right? You don't appeal directly to law. It's kind of like the idea of being a tattletale when you're a kid or whatever. Now, is that always going to be true? Do you need somebody to administer the law? I think in certain circumstances, yes. It's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out with cryptocurrency too. I just want to make it clear that like, this is not necessarily a condemnation, nor do I think that like any of these guys belong in jail, because frankly, I don't even know what the full cases are. Hopefully we'll learn a little bit here, but the SEC charges 8 social media influencers in $100 million stock manipulation scheme promoted on Discord and Twitter. Now, in particular for this one, guys, it does appear that it's going to be surrounding like these meme stock things, right? So the Securities and Exchange Commission today announced charges against 8 individuals in a $100 million securities fraud scheme in which they used social media platforms, Twitter and Discord, to manipulate exchange-traded stocks. According to the SEC, since at least January 2020, 7 of the defendants promoted themselves as successful traders and cultivated hundreds of thousands of followers on Twitter and in stock trading chat rooms on Discord. These 7 defendants allegedly purchased certain stocks and then encouraged their substantial social media following to buy those selected stocks by posting price targets or indicating they were buying, holding, or adding to their stock position. However, as the complaint alleges, when share prices and or trading volumes rose in the promoted securities, the individuals regularly sold their shares without ever having disclosed their plans to dump the securities while they were promoting them. As our complaint states, the defendants used social media to amass a large following of novice investors and then took advantage of their followers by repeatedly feeding them a steady diet of misinformation, which resulted in fraudulent profits of approximately $100 million, said Joseph Sanson, chief of the SEC Enforcement Division Market Abuse Unit. Today's action exposes the true motivation of these alleged fraudsters and serves as another warning that investors should be wary of unsolicited advice they encounter online. The following 7 individuals were charged with securities fraud. Now, this is alleged, but I will say, if you recognize any of these names, just be aware that they could be unscrupulous, right? So you have PJ Matlock on Twitter, Mr. Zach Morris on Twitter, Oh Hey Tommy on Twitter, Notorious Alerts on Twitter, Hugh Hen on Twitter, Lady Back on Twitter, and Ultra Calls on Twitter. The complaint further charges Daniel Knight of Texas with aiding and abetting the alleged scheme by, among other things, co-hosting a podcast in which he promoted many of the other individuals as expert traders and provided them with a forum for their manipulative statements. Knight also traded in concert with the other defendants and regularly generated profits from the manipulation. The SEC's complaint filed in the U.S. District Court of the Southern District of Texas seeks permanent injunctions, disgorgement, prejudgment interest, and civil penalties against each defendant, as well as a penny stock bar against H.R. Vadin. Criminal charges against all 8 individuals were also filed in a paralegal action brought by the Department of Justice's fraud section and the U.S. Attorney's auction for the Southern District of Texas. The SEC's investigation, which is ongoing, is being handled by Andrew Pallid, David Scheffler, and Michelle T. Perio of the Market Abuse Unit in the Boston Regional Office, with assistance from Darren Borner of the MAU, Stuart Jackson, Catherine Schumann Foster, and Marina Martinova of the Division of Risk and Economic Analysis, DARA, and Howard Kaplan of the Office of the Investigative and Market Analytics. So there you go. The investigation resulted from a referral from the Division of Examinations by Mark Aguilera, John Cackmore, and so on and so forth. Now, obviously, these are talking about stocks, meme stocks, that sort of thing, but this exact practice has been going on in crypto for a long time. You remember those coins at the beginning of this that I mentioned would offer $10,000 for you to talk about them on your cryptocurrency YouTube channel? Yes, I have been tagged and been in many, many email chains where they did not even blind copy some of the other recipients. And I did notice at a certain point that some of these content creators were doing videos on this coin. Now, do I have specific actual proof that these content creators were taking the payment from these coins and then making the videos about them? No. All I do have is essentially the fact that they got the email and then they proceeded to create a video about the coin, and usually that coin ended up in a dump. There's no actual solid proof that I have that they did it, that they accepted payment, but these are things that happen, right? There is some, of these YouTubers that will probably end up in a position similar to, of course, what we see here, especially as the crackdown on cryptocurrency and the focus on cryptocurrency due to FTX is kind of magnified, right? It's going to be a lot of ants underneath that magnifying glass. Now, I'd like to remind you guys to hit that like button for me and get us over 100 likes today. I want to thank everybody for stopping in on this Friday evening. The fact that you chose to come hang out with me at prime time on Friday is amazing. So I thank you for that. And everybody that watches afterwards, I fully and completely understand that you have other things going on. So there you go. Now, Bank of Russia moves to safeguard crypto companies against sanctions. Now, I retweeted this one earlier this week and said, are we the baddies? Why? Because obviously the US and the UK is basically sanctioning a bunch of cryptocurrency technologies and removing, of course, like a lot of financial sovereignty within their borders. Meanwhile, Russia's going the opposite, right? And actually, for fear of this podcast going on a little bit too long, well, no, we got time. We can do this. I do fear that this is going to put us on the no fun list, by the way. So please share, I suppose. This is going to put us on the no fun list, I think. Which I think we're already on the no fun list. If we were BitBoy Crypto, we get 10K views though. It is what it is. The Central Bank of Russia has introduced measurements to protect entities working with digital assets from sanction pressures. These businesses will be exempted from some reporting requirements as part of a regulatory relief intended to minimize the burden on financial organizations. This is huge, guys. So the Central Bank of the Russian Federation has allowed issuers of digital finance assets not to disclose information sensitive in the light of sanction risks. The exemption, valid until July 1st of 2023, concerns data revealing the beneficial owners of such entities. What's going on here, right? Obviously, this is being done because oligarchs, blah, 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 don't want sanctioning to happen on their addresses. And so the Central Bank of Russia is saying, hey, just don't tell us about it. right now. This is only valid till July of 2023. So it's very sneaky, right? Like you need to like read it for what it is. What is it? Well, what it is Russia basically, or the central bank of Russia adhering to the principles of crypto, but only for the interim effect of basically trying to get around sanctions. Once again, though, if you know me, you know that I'm against sanctions within cryptocurrency. So I personally don't have anything against this practice. I just wish it was permanent. Right? That's me. According to an announcement quoted by Russian crypto media, the temporary reporting relief is part of package measures meant to help persons and organizations operating within the Russian financial market infrastructure. While Russia is yet to regulate cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, the existing law on digital financial assets permits companies to issue coins and tokens in controlled environments. 3 operators of information systems in which DFA can be issued have already been licensed by the CBR. These are Russia's largest bank, SBER, the tokenization service Atomize, and Lighthouse. In the press release, the Bank of Russia explained that the regulatory and supervisory relief provided to financial market participants and DFA issuers since earlier this year is intended to minimize the burden on these organizations in the current economic and geopolitical situation. Hey. During this economic situation, why is the oppressive nation of Russia helping its citizens out more than the free world of the United States? Why? You can cut this cookie however you want. The way that they are going to aim it, of course, is that Russia bad. They're doing this to get around sanctions. Yes, that is true. But they're allowing their citizens to do it, and they are providing them with some financial relief, while the exact opposite is happening in the United States. Two wrongs don't make a right, but 3 lefts do. So let's take another left, my friends. Please. Crazy. A proposal to legalize the use of cryptocurrencies for international settlements in order to lower the sanctions pressure has been backed by Russian institutions, including the central bank, which has traditionally maintained a hardline stance on crypto regulations. The CBR insisted that the support offered to financial firms, including DFA issuers and exchange operators, has alleviated the negative effects of the restrictions and allowed them to adapt to the new conditions. The regulator plans additional steps in the same direction, such as amendments allowing the recognition of losses due to the sanctions. Guys, I'm going to tell you right now that I do think that we are in a position, and I want you to tune into the after stream over on Locals, because we're going to put this all together for you. We're not talking about it right now, but we're going to talk about what was happening at Twitter, with Saudi Arabia and Saudi Arabia's play in all this. We have to talk about BRICS. These are things that are going to be very, very serious that you need to pay attention to. But the only position that the U.S. puts themselves in when it comes to cryptocurrency by regulating it to this extent is at a global economic disadvantage. If you are going to be a capitalistic society that prides itself, of course, on innovation, then you need to incentivize people to basically innovate, right? You should incentivize the push towards cryptocurrency. You should be at the forefront of it. You should enable people to innovate within the space. Are we the baddies? Are we putting ourselves in this particular case at a disadvantage economically? These are the questions I have surrounding this. We have some sad news for proof of work mining, coming from my favorite mining pool, GetBlock. Like I've always said in the past, GetBlock was one of the, if not the most innovative mining pool. Actually, I think hands down, it's safe to say that GetBlock.io was the most innovative mining pool to ever grace the presence of cryptocurrency. They had a developer team that was far more knowledgeable in the cryptocurrency space than I think any other mining pool operator. They fully understood Ergo script. They fully understood, smart contracts, all of these types of things. And it's sad to report that they are basically closing down their smart pools, which is the innovative portion of this. And it's sad. I really liked Rob. I have some of their GetBlock shirts. You guys are aware of that. I thought a lot of the work that they were doing was absolutely just like next level. Unfortunately, I think it just came at the wrong time, right? And maybe on the wrong network. Wrong time, wrong place, right? Since the conception of the smart pool, it has been our goal to provide a decentralized mining platform for miners alike to be able to contribute and participate in the novel technology of smart pooling. As many know, the smart pool requires significant development and infrastructure. While building value for the end user, the infrastructure required for the smart pool has been significantly higher than the mining fees generated. Following the Ethereum merge, this problem has been compounded by the larger pools dominating the hash rate on Ergo. Well, if we look at hash rate post-merge and hash rate on, GetBlock post-merge, hash rate on GetBlock post-merge was very good. I think it could have been sustainable. If we want to be completely honest about why GetBlock struggled post-merge, it is because Ergo refused to acknowledge the difficulty problem and resolve it prior to the merge, which meant that once miners moved over post-merge, with a lot of them, in the Terra hashes, pushing GetBlock into the top 5, GetBlock's not going to tell you that, right? But once they moved over and there were too many issues going on, too many people hopped off, the home miners hopped off. A majority of what was happening on, of course, GetBlock was home miners. That affected everybody, right? The inability to accept that there was an issue and be blinded by ego basically was detrimental to the entire network. And it's just sad to see, right? Like, it's just sad, man. Unfortunately, GetBlock will be shutting down the smart pool until further notice. That doesn't mean that they're shutting down the rest of it, right? So you can still mine to GetBlock if you want to go support them. Hopefully, maybe in the next bull run, they're able to do something similar with smart pools. That's what I would hope to see. And I hope for success for Ergo in the next bull run too. We will be shutting down the Stratums on December 11th. That was actually about 5 days ago. So all minimum payment thresholds will be set to 0, so no miner funds or balances are left behind. Additionally, we will ensure that all back payments are processed before shutting down the dashboard. All tokens that are within the emissions contract will be returned to the various projects once all payouts to miners are completed. The future of Smart Pool, as it stands now, is unknown. The team will reevaluate the future under different economic conditions. Now, I do think to a certain extent, and maybe what could help here, I know, like, obviously, I'm always coming in afterwards. I get the news when I get the news. So anybody that's like pro Ergo and is always like, well, why don't you do something about it? I try. I talk about it. I got this news late. Infrastructure is expensive. There is a possibility that you could speak with, of course, Flux. Why do I say that? Because they are basically getting very, very close to persistent storage. The WordPress releases are coming out, and the fees to host on Flux are extremely cheap. And so if it's a money problem, which obviously it's an infrastructure cost problem, there is potential to lower the infrastructure cost by essentially moving to something like Flux, right? So I just want to throw that out there. I might even just ping Rob. I pinged Rob like 5 times this week already, or last week when, they were having cert issues and other stuff going on. Obviously, this is what was really going on. Infrastructure costs is probably why they were having like certs run out and that sort of thing. It's sad to see. I hope they can recover. I don't think that there's actually enough hash rate over there to support any infrastructure if we're being completely honest. Let's go ahead and check mining pool stats here just to be completely sure on that. Not Ergo. Let's go ahead and make sure we're accurate there. Is GetBlock? Yeah, GetBlock is way down here. Wait, GetBlock is completely. It looks like they've shut down completely. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually verify that. Was it ergo.getBlock? Is that correct? Oops. I think they might. Are all the stratums down now? Yeah, ergo.getBlock just redirects to the main page. So all the stratums are down. So Ergo's done, or GetBlock's done. Wow. Fuck. And I mean, like, we have to call it like it is too. Like, that means like Aneta angels are worthless, by the way. So, that sucks. It is what it is, I suppose, boys. Welcome to the bear market. Moment of silence for GetBlock. You will be missed. Moving on. We have some good news. Which is nice. For a while, Hive OS had kind of frankly, sort of gone bear market on our ass and stopped posting updates, stopped developing pretty much everything except some ASIC stuff. And it was getting a little, I was getting a little worried that we were going to end up with a dead OS, right? But they started pumping out updates on the 11th and started getting updates out, right? We had this like crazy time, right? Like starting in November, it started like a few patches here and there. Like we had some long waits. We had like 2-week waits. We had like crazy Caspa miner improvements coming out and like the updates not getting pushed. And now we've had like what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days in a row of updates. It appears they're back on top, like on top of things, right? Caught the wild rig update. It went from 0.3 or 3.5.2 to 3.5.3, popping it off. So I'm really excited to see Hive OS start to push updates again. I was getting genuinely worried, right? I was like, like, they're kind of pushing this ASIC thing super hard. Where's the GPU mining going? What's happening here? Please don't tell me that they've completely abandoned it. And luckily, The answer to that is that they have not. They are starting to push updates, daily updates. We got new miners popping out all over the place. Caspa is getting crazy improvements all over the place. Dual mining's happening. I think even like Wild Rig got a 40% up to 40% increase on Nexa power. We got some new one called Sky Doge. I haven't checked out Nexa yet. I'm definitely looking at that. Sky Doge is something that I need to look at too. So hopefully we'll be doing that this week on some of the streams over on Locals. So make sure that you are following over on Locals for that. And then hopefully once we get a better idea, we'll bring it over here, right? But if you guys aren't familiar over on Locals, essentially what I do on Locals is very ad hoc in the moment type stuff. So you may catch things that a lot of other people miss. In fact, like I know a lot of y'all that watch over on Locals catch a lot of stuff that everybody over here on YouTube will miss. It is kind of a slog to get through though. I am entertaining, or I do my best to be entertaining at the same time. I get it. It's not the same format, right? It's not quick, get your news and get out. So it is what it is. The other thing that just came out is we have a new HNS miner, handshake miner announcement from Antminer. Now, this one's simply insane, right? In the words of WCCF Tech, we have a simply insane HNS miner poised for release in January. And this one is going to do 9 terahash a second at 2080 watts. For comparison, the next best right now is the Gold Shell HS3, which is doing basically 2 terahash, 2 to 3 terahash at 2000 watts. So, 450% increase basically at the very least, up to, it's crazy improvement coming from Antminer. It looks like the price on launch is going to be $2,092. Obviously, what this is going to mean is that the first to get their hands on these are going to do very, very well on Handshake, but then people will fall off and not do so swell on these, right? So the HS3 is going to be gone. Right now, I actually have the calculation in here for this new one coming from Bitmain. You might want to mark your calendars for pre-orders if you're interested in purchasing it. Otherwise, it'll be difficult to get. But you are looking at 10 cents a kilowatt hour, a profit of $11.70. Now, to give you an idea, at that price, which is basically $2,100 and a profit of $11.70, which will not be, steady as more come online, that would be a 179-day ROI. Obviously, the best deal in crypto right now. Right? In crypto mining right now. However, just want to reiterate, once they all hit the network, poof, profitability goes down, right? So you can't be sure that you're going to have an under 200-day ROI. However, right now, if you can get some pre-orders and you want to, just make sure that you're staying on top of it. I tried to subscribe for a pre-order. I couldn't get one. Hopefully we can get our hands on one though. We'll see how it goes. It's nutty, boys. It's nutty. But I do think I won't go out and buy any other handshake miners right now. It would probably be a bad idea. Let's talk about some Caspa news, some bullish Caspa news. Of course, the price of Caspa has gone down quite a bit, but from the tech perspective, things are looking good. To put it into numbers, Michael Sutton, by the way, from Caspa says, contributor Caspa says, to put it into numbers, this means the first version of Caspa on Rust language, which is the Rust programming language, is approximately 85% complete. That's awesome. So right now the consensus core is done and the RPC infrastructure is done. So they have the P2P infrastructure near completion and the script engine near completion. The pruning support is in progress and mining rules are pending pull request. So starting soon, they will be working on the mempool, the IBD, the P2P flows, and putting it all together. So we're 85% close to Rust, and I've been looking forward to, of course, this from a technological perspective. from a transactions per second and blocks per second perspective, this will definitely put, I think, Rust on the map, because it will be faster than all current chains. So the relevance of that is right now it's faster than all proof of work, but not as fast as all chains, right? Like all the proof of stake chains. Once this goes through, theoretically, we're going to see like, I think it was like 33,000 transactions per second, something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a while since I did the math, but that puts it way ahead of everything, right? That puts it ahead of Solana and so on. So if this goes through without a hitch, awesome. You know, as anything with in the tech world, it could tank pretty hard right off the bat. You know, do you want to be holding your coins throughout it? You know, that's going to be a sketchy move. You know, there's definitely, like, anytime you have a hard fork like this, there are things that as a user you want to be cognizant of, right? How is are you going to have to do anything with your wallet? Are you going to have to do anything to claim your coins on the next network? All this sort of stuff can be, just pay attention to what's happening, right? And so I'm going to try to keep track of it and make sure you guys are aware of what you need to do with your wallets, etc. And just to make sure that we are like all on the same page. And if you are holding Caspa, you know technically what to do, right? I'm not saying hold Caspa. I'm saying from a technical perspective of how to do it through it. I'll try to stay up to date and let you guys know. Okay. Hopefully they just do it in a manner that doesn't really affect you as an end user as much, right? That would be obviously everybody in the tech world's preferred result, which is end users do nothing. Everything looks the same, but it's much improved. Much wow, right? Much wow. So let's look at mining profitability and all of that right after a word from today's sponsor.
Established in 2017, Octominer is an international mining hardware company. They manufacture and engineer the best mining equipment in the industry and supply rigs to some of the largest mining farms around the world. Their GPU mining rigs also integrate with the top crypto operating systems like Hive OS, MinerStat, and Simple Mining. All parts come with an international 1-year warranty. Exciting news! They will be adding ASIC miners for sale to their website soon and launching a new product built specifically for ASIC home miners. Please visit octominer.com or email support@octominer.com for questions.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. So I want to get through the mining profitability pretty quick here. There's nothing profitable right now, right? Everything down the line is unprofitable for GPUs. There are things you can do to make it profitable, and there are coins that aren't listed here that work a little bit better. The big ones to point out, though, that are probably profitable for some people, depending on your price, is going to be Radiant right now. Even with its price dump, I believe even Caspa looks pretty okay. No, Caspa's down pretty good. So I think it's just Radiant right now. And then, of course, there are a couple of the other ones to look at that we talked about earlier that we'll be poking at later on this week that aren't necessarily listed here yet, but will be, have some potential, essentially. We look at this with Nexa Power and Skydoge. So there's potential. Have I looked into it enough to make any comments? No. Will we? Yes, hopefully, as I get time throughout the week. Now, ASIC miner profitability, KA3, obviously not really out in the wild quite yet all the way. It should be, though. I think shipments were going out on yesterday, so we should start seeing it land in the hands. We should start seeing the network begin to be affected by the KA3 and by the by the KA3, as well as the K7 on CKB, and then we'll start to get more realistic numbers. Other than that, really still topping the chart is the Antminer L7. Of course, they're still quite pricey, so you got to pay attention to that. Then you got the iPolo G1 sitting at 55 cents a day on Grin. Not too good. The D7 looking a little bit better at 458 a day on Dash. The HS3 is looking very good on HNS at $5.11 a day, but in January it'll be absolutely wiped out. Be very careful. These are going to probably start hitting the market, right? You're probably going to see this and be like, oh, my ROI looks so good. They're so cheap. No, it's not near as good as you think it is, because we got that big old bad boy with 450% more hash rate at the same power coming on the network in January. Don't fall for the HS3 sales that are about to hit the net, like hit the eBays, right? And hit the Facebook marketplace. Don't fall for it, okay? Be very cognizant of that. Other than that, Antminer Z15 sitting at like $3 a day. iPolo V1 sitting at like $3.19 a day on DAE. That's a new one that I haven't heard of. It's apparently an ET hash coin. A few of these ET hash coins, or a few of these on ET hash. Interesting. DAE is a new one. Let me know if you guys have heard of it. Obviously, I don't get to keep up with crypto quite as much as I used to with the day job, but we'll get there. And then the Antminer S19 Pro, basically unprofitable. So at 10 cents a kilowatt hour, unfortunately, we are in the negative. Let's go ahead and get into questions and answers for the day. Remember, super chats are never required, always appreciated. First to be answered because they're the easiest to read. I do appreciate each and every single one of y'all. And after this at 9 o'clock, in about 15 minutes, we will be doing a live show on locals, and it is linked up here. So make sure you click on over there. It will also be on Rumble, so you can check out over there as well. It's completely free to become a member over on locals. We are doing a push. I currently am at 265 out of 500 subscribers for our 500 supporters, excuse me. 265 out of our 500 supporter goal over on locals. A part of that goal is an incentive that locals has set up with me, that I get an additional bonus from them. That bonus would help me, stay alive during the bear market. If you guys want to help me get close to that bonus, that's cool. Other than that, though, yeah, super chats over here are always great because you get notifications for them. And if you want to join, of course, you get the little cool thing next to your name, along with all of the emotes over here on YouTube. So plenty of ways to support the channel if you want, and I appreciate it. But of course, it is the bear market, so take care of you and yours primarily and first, please. Of course. So we have a lot of regulars up in the chat. It's good to see everybody here. Truck, Yvonne, it's good to see you. Gordon, Murray, good to see you always. Michael, good to see you. Gandalf, good to see you. I like to see the locals here. Weldopedia, what's up, my man? So let's go ahead and get some questions in if you want. You got about 14 minutes for those questions. Local sounds like a dating app. Yeah, the naming scheme for locals is really interesting. I do agree with that. Minor illusion, what's going on, my man? Patrick says, at Summit you got my long-term support on locals. Thank you, good sir. Retro Mike Crypto says, hoping for that Varus hash rate drop tomorrow. Wasn't aware of it. Ian earlier asked, what about the Aneta BTC and the Angel mining rewards? Like I said, unfortunately, yeah, Aneta BTC and the Angel mining rewards are gone. Like, there's no smart pool to mine them to. I don't know what happened to the smart contract. We could probably try to do a deep dive on that smart contract. That would be an interesting investigative report. What happened to all of the Aneta BTC that was in that smart contract and how is it getting extracted, right? In fact, what happened to all of it, right? What happened to the Comet? What happened to all of those tokens that were in smart contracts for the smart pool? Gordon says, are you still mining Caspa? Currently, no. I do have the FPGA on there, which we need to do the review for and all of that. So technically, yes. Effectively, no. Like my power bill is way too high, and I gotta get like, I owe like $3,600 to the power company, and I'm not making enough on there at all. So, mining, and I got to get caught up on that, and like my income's just not there to get caught up on that properly. And if I keep mining, it's going to keep driving it up, and I can't do that anymore, right? So, you know, I'd love to. It was like I said on Twitter today, I'm DCAing my electric bill. That's it, man. I'm just going to try to pay into whatever I can to mine whatever I can on the electric bill. But at this point, we're going to have to just kind of get everything cleaned up right now. I think is really kind of the goal of mine. And that just means like regular life and everything else too, right? Let's see. Gandalf says, did you say the T15 is profitable? No, Z15. Ian says, at Tech, I think they said they returned it, but that's a really good idea. Okay. Yeah, we should still do a deep dive and see. So they would return it to what? The devs of the token? Like, that's kind of weird. Just goes back to the devs of the token. Well, I feel like because Aneta, like, so, and I'll talk to Aneta, but I think Aneta should drop everything that was in the smart contract, should airdrop all of those tokens that were left in the smart contract to Aneta Angel holders. Now, obviously, I'm an Aneta Angel holder, so I am biased there. But I think that right now, I think that, like, even then, I think that the right thing to do for Aneta would be to take everything that was in the smart contract and drop it to whoever has angels. Blue Dragon Mining says, that's Tech. Would a 2080 Ti be worth it for 300, or would pursuing 3070s be a better choice going after Flux? I mean, 2080 Ti's are good. At 300, I'm not so certain. The GPU market's very odd right now. I think as you guys have seen, like we talked about, kind of the prices coming back up in the GPU market. We have this like inflation problem, right, on tech in general. You know, new GPUs are selling for way more than they ever have in the past. You know, $16.99 or some crap for a 4090. It's crazy, dude. But as far as like 2080 Ti and 3070, anything newer is usually going to be better. Hitting 3070s are going to be pretty solid, I think. The newest, like the 40 series, technically has an argument for Caspa. And then the 7900 series, I haven't really, like, I've only seen like ETH numbers. I need to go look at reviews and see if anybody else has done more about that, as far as that's concerned. Nathan is asking, will Binance go under? I mean, nobody can predict the future because you don't know like what is going on, but we already talked about, you know, the headline at the beginning. So I highly recommend after this, you go back so you can get a full breadth of knowledge on, you know, what's going on specifically with these auditing companies and so on. And then you're good there. But yeah. Let's go ahead and we have about 8 minutes, I suppose, left if you guys want to ask any more questions here, and then we're going to get moved over. Mike says, Ask Tech, could you explain what the Caspa developer meant when he was speaking on Spartan contracts being launched on it? Yeah, that one, you know, sometimes everybody does this, and it's like you have a good idea, right? Which is like, we would like to do this, and then you talk about it publicly, but 9 times out of 10, like, you probably don't have the bandwidth to do it. Like, they're in the middle of like moving everything over to a completely new programming language. I would not expect smart contracts on Caspa anytime soon. I also don't necessarily think it's a good idea. So there's already, okay. What I would prefer they work on, in my humble opinion, is a governance model in which miners vote for KIPs or KIPs, which would be Caspa improvement proposals. The fact that right now the voting system is essentially kind of through Discord and that sort of thing, it's messy. You can't verify that people are actually participating in the community. You open yourself up to just kind of like the mass public that doesn't necessarily always have the best interest in mind, whereas I think like miners would have the best interest of the network in mind. I think like that would be more important than like implementing smart contracts, right? But I understand, like, okay, I'm going to give you the argument against what I said, right? Which is, because I already know what Deshi's going to say, because it was clear when I brought up like Bitcoin being slow and like taking its time and being solid. He clearly said that he clearly said that his big complaint with Bitcoin was that it didn't implement technology changes, etc., quickly enough. So I think and part of that is because it does require like that sort of like governance. And so I don't think they would actually ever go to that governance model, right? I don't know why you're asking about the T15 ASIC. I didn't mention the T15 or the T19. I haven't looked it up. Tasty says, at Son of Attack, you mentioned Drew could be in trouble earlier. Vosk, how so? Well, no, and I don't know any of like specifically how any of that stuff goes down. I think that, so it depends on like how the SEC is obviously approaching the way people advertise token or meme stocks. I think that translates into cryptocurrency as well. So I think if you promoted, I think that you are in danger if you promoted a coin in return for payment, right? Even if that coin was even if you stated it explicitly. Now, I don't know that Vosk actually did that. The other one that I would be worried about in particular with that would be relationship to FTX ads and then relationship to BlockFi, right? So, and I don't know legally where any of that happens. My only point was to basically state why personally I was a lot more cautious surrounding those types of things and had very stringent rules when I would accept sponsorship, etc., right? Because all that trickles down eventually, right? So if they decide to start going after everybody that promoted FTX, obviously, like, the larger your channel, and then they're going to scrutinize all of that if you slip up in the way you promoted it. It's just a scary proposition, right? It's why you have to be extremely careful, I think, as a content creator in general. So that's about it. Like, I don't, like, here's the thing. I don't think that, like, Vosk would or has done anything malicious intentionally, right? Like, I don't think that's the case. I just think that you can get caught in the crossfire if you're not extremely careful as a content creator, right? Sadie, sometimes thanks for the $20 super chat. Says appreciate the stream. I appreciate the $20 super chat. Real Stage Coach says Caspa Dev was making a point that non-native smart contracts would still be faster than and perform better than other projects. Correct. Yeah. And I should probably have him on to talk about that more, because we've had that discussion surrounding, Ravencoin. I think, did I try to press him on that? I did, and he wouldn't say it, right? But we all know what he meant, right? He meant Ravencoin, it's better to do non-native smart contracts than to do, or basically it's better to do smart contracts than native assets, right? Which is like, it's better to build it in the manner of Ergo or Ethereum than it is to build it in the manner of Ravencoin from a technical perspective. That's his argument. I'm not saying that's true. That's what he said, right? As far as I understand it. That being said, I think more clarification on that would be amazing if Deshi's willing to come back on, and hopefully maybe he has a better connection next time. Gandalf says, that's Tech, my bad. I went back. It was the Z15. Yeah, that's what I said. I thought I corrected that. Geek of All Trades says, that's Tech, if you had to pick one to be removed from mining forever, which would you choose and why? NVIDIA or AMD? NVIDIA. Because NVIDIA will manipulate the market more than, well, they both will, I think, inevitably, but NVIDIA has already proven that they'll manipulate that market. Some pretty dirty ways too, right? All right, so it is time to move on over to Rumble and Locals. Make sure you check out the pinned comment, and thank you everybody for hanging out today. Let's get this going. I'll see you guys over there in just a second. I'll see you next Tuesday or in like 10 minutes. Test.